Hello, everybody, and welcome to another night of Dungeons and Dragons, where the plot's made up and the stats don't matter. Just before we get started, very quickly, we're not endorsed by, sponsored by, affiliated with, or specifically approved by Wizards of the Coast LLC here on Goldhart. And tonight we've got a very special kind of game for you. This is one of our viewer one-shots, and as you might see, we've got a fairly new face. Some of you may have seen them around the interwebs before, but for those of you that haven't, this is our good friend at Tweeter of Vecna, I should say. You can find on Twitter. They've been kind enough to request and redeem a viewer one-shot using stags. Stags are a form of currency that you earn by watching us, and you can redeem them for things like that. You can redeem them for other things as well. So if you do want to potentially book an evening with us, request a DM. We will get you sorted with somebody who can help you guys out. We'll happily run a game for you if you've got enough stags to get. So yeah, we're in for a very fun one tonight, and it's going to be a little bit different from our usual fare. And there's going to be a lot of fluff, to say the least. So let's launch right into things, because this fine cast and crew here are at present in the grand city of Neverwinter, port city on the Sword Coast, and happen to be enjoying an ale and a meal in a very familiar and famous tavern known as the Fallen Tower. It's relatively early evening. The sun is beginning to set, but there's still plenty of hours in the day. It is the long summer at the time. And there are plenty of options for the evening. One topic of discussion is that you may perhaps wish to go and see the players performing Belagar the Black Dragon. Someone else mentions that there is a renowned bard in town performing near Blue Lake. And of course, all week the famous Clockwork Carnival has been open until late. As the debate goes on, an orc begins to approach the table. He's innately familiar to those of you who have visited the town before and spent time particularly in this tavern. This is Vagdru One Ear, and indeed, as his namesake suggests, he has one ear. He approaches the table, eyeing the various mugs, most of which are empty, around your current table, and nods at you all. Are you willing to order more? Everybody's on mute, just FYI.
I used all the money from my last job on this round.
That's no excuse for not having another. The bar's open till late.
I mean, if you want to give me a drink for free, I'll have it.
Don't run a charity.
Then it's a pretty dang good excuse.
And as he kind of says this, and you notice his foot lashes out briefly, and there's a sharp hiss from something underneath the table. Out of the way. Cat's always underfoot. I'll get you another. And he turns and goes back toward the bar. As he does so, you see the small figure that he has lashed out at, and it is a cat of regular size, but immaculately manicured and well kept. This is a Persian, by all accounts. Marvelous white fluff across the whole body, perfectly looked after. And as it takes a step or two away from underneath the table, it looks back at the rest of you. And you see, oddly enough, what appears at first glance perhaps to be a ribbon attached to the back of the tail looks to be paper or parchment of some kind. It seems to flick languidly back and forth.
So, as a forest gnome, I can speak to small beasts. What do you got there?
The cat's face just kind of turns to look at you with a little bit of disdain. Takes a hesitant step or two forward. Hops up onto one of the empty chairs next to you. And just sits very regally, just the two paws kind of in front. Tail just swishing a little bit back and forth behind the head. Doesn't give you any verbal response.
So I'll reach out and grab grab what's on its tail, or at least attempt to.
It doesn't resist, and it takes a little bit, but you're able to untie it easily enough. And the paper simply says, "Follow me."
Let
As
it
your eyes
run.
as your eyes flicker from the message to the cat tilts its head at you a little bit, and then just turns, hops down very dexterously from the chair, and begins to pace slowly towards the door, looking back occasionally just to see if it's got your attention.
Mm-hmm. So I immediately hop down. Like, this is what I'm doing now. Um,
Now you are at the table with others. Are any of the rest of you reacting in any fashion to this?
I think that Laura has seen Alvin speak with animals a lot. And Laura is currently trying to get her drinking bird to work.
Go ahead and describe what's the drinking bird for everybody.
It looks like a tiny version of her, but with this like long proboscis type thing. Because she doesn't enjoy alcohol and she doesn't quite get it, but that she can make things drink alcohol for her. So she's probably fixated on that right now. Um, and hasn't exactly reacted to the cat yet.
I don't like cats. They don't like to get wet. They like to be at the dock, but they don't like the water. It's very strange. I say, turning to Limerick.
Well, they are very strange, but I suppose that's because more than other creatures, they are very much their own. What trouble is Alvin getting himself into?
I don't know, but the cat's out of the bag. Who? Are you okay?
I don't know. It felt like I needed to sneeze just now, but maybe I don't. Who knows? That's weird. I should not be allergic to anything. I'm a construct.
Do you feel better now?
Yes.
We should probably follow Alvin. I might need to save him again from drowning that I didn't cause.
Or perhaps at the very least from the wrath of this feline friend he has found.
I shall take my experiment to go then and pick up the drink with the drinking bird on it and start marching out the door.
Are you leaving with alcohol? I thought you didn't drink. I did not know that that was a thing.
I don't, but little Lore does. Let's go. I just keep walking.
I bend down and reach under the table to pick up a very mossy looking fur ball that I then drape around my neck as I destroy my surroundings at the same time. And
You notice, as you kind of reach under the table for him, he seems to have been locked in a staring contest with a brown mastiff at the other side of the table, and seems very disgruntled at the fact that you've broken the contest ahead of time.
Kelpie. I told you, if you want to win against the dog, you just blow in its eye. You can cast Gust.
And it curls around your shoulders, drapes itself across, but does something just enough for a fashion that it seems to be in a form of very subtle protest.
That's enough of that, Kelpie. And then I take hold of Kelpie's tail, and then I move it to his head so that he clutches on in this like cute little otter way where he holds his own tail, but he also looks like a little scarf.
And as his jaw closes over its own tail, those of you looking might just see the very faintest hint of an eye roll from the otter before it just goes completely limp. The Mastiff, meanwhile, pads out from underneath the table and does indeed follow Alvin. The cat, meanwhile, has been getting closer and closer to the door, occasionally looking back, meowing, which is kind of lost in the general clamour more often than not in the tavern as it begins to fill up with the evening rush. But eventually it takes an opportunity as it gets closer to the door. As a patron of the tavern opens it and enters, it slips out and into the street.
So Alvin's just completely invested in what's happening with this cat right now. When Rex catches up, he kind of turns over to Rex and just goes, "So, what do you think of this?"
I remember the last time we were chasing a cat. Didn't go well.
You're right. Maybe I should have. Where did everyone go? And he starts looking around for the rest of the group.
It takes a second or two because most of the party members that you're with are quite short and kind of lost amongst the tables, the chairs, and the other patrons. The first one you lay eyes upon is Ocean, simply because of her taller stature. And eventually you do catch sight of the others. They're making their way through the crowd towards you at present.
Hey.
Alvin, what are you doing?
The cat told me to follow it, and I hold up the note.
It's a good enough
This
reason.
this one here.
Yeah, this one.
Did the cat say what it wanted?
No, just I wanted me to follow it. I bet it's a case.
Or a trap? You can't trust anything that doesn't like water.
Meow. And you see the cat's head poke
No.
around the side of the door frame just to glare at you before popping back out of sight.
You know, there are a number of cautionary tales about following creatures and not knowing where they are going.
It's been a while since we've had a case. We should go. On the case, not away.
Onward. And just like with Laura's encouragement, Alvin immediately just takes off towards the cat.
I'm a facsimile of a predator. I like the chase.
And as you exit the tavern, you can see the cat has moved a little bit further away down the street and appears to be going in a northerly direction, following much of the main road.
Now, as people who are residents here, would we know where, like, what's in that area of town?
Yes, you would. And those of you that are familiar would know that it's kind of, if it stays on that path, potentially going to lead you towards an area that we call the Beggar's Nest. It's one of the more destitute districts of Neverwinter.
I wonder what could possibly be happening in. Isn't this the direction to the Beggar's District?
And this is a very, very beautiful and rare cat that's leading us there.
Well, that area of town does happen to have some of the more interesting stories, and I have been lacking inspiration as of late. So, I suppose we'll have to go have ourselves a visit. Madame Ocean.
Well, I did bring some extra potions. I do get the best amount of my business from there. You know, someone always has lice or boils or. Last time someone had nits. That was interesting.
Ooh. Perhaps I can offer my services, removing one of those things with a lesser restoration spell.
But also, my acidic potion works. It just melts them right off. Makes them bored as well, but. No, not acid. It doesn't burn the skin, just the hair.
Oh, acid bath.
It's like a wash, you dunk sheep in it.
I did
But
not, now I do.
wool is very different to hair, though. But no more hair, no more knits. So, Lumrick, are you saying that this cat is too fancy for this part of town?
How often exactly have we known Alvin to just go take off on adventures to that part of town?
All the time?
Pardon?
All the time.
I suppose you do have a point. He often gets into misadventures no matter what part of town he ends up in. I'm just curious about what's happening in this particular one.
We should keep up, really.
Rex, meanwhile, is padding alongside you, Alvin, and just casually remarks, "So, I love the Beggars District. So many smells."
Yeah, I mean, growing up, we got the best food here.
And nobody ever made you use manners either. It's great.
Exactly. So, this cat, pretty fancy.
What was the question?
This cat pretty fancy.
They all think they're fancy. Think they're better than dogs.
Nothing's better than a dog.
And he turns to give you a lick on your exposed hand. It kind of, because of the size discrepancy, almost goes up most of your forearm as well.
Sea otters!
Dog just kind of looks back at you, narrows its eyes a little bit, and I don't know whether you'd be able to see it from your angle, but Kelpie's eyes narrow a little bit as well, and you just feel a little bit of tension run through the whole thing before it just goes limp again.
Okay, so the cat. Are y'all excited about this adventure?
Been a long time. Bored. Really bored. Glad to be out there now, though. Even if it is for a cat.
Alrighty. Well, let's get going.
And the cat leads you further on, and indeed does eventually start leading you into the Beggar's Nest. Now, this is where you can start to see a lot of the cobblestone streets begin to get a little bit more faded. You see parts of moss beginning to pop up between some of the stones here and there. The smell is distinctly different and gets progressively stronger. There's more of an odor in there as well. This is further away from the sea, so there's less to clean the actual air here. And you can tell. And as you begin to work your way through, the cat leads you into a maze of narrow streets and dirty alleyways. You're fortunate enough that most of the people here seem to have gone about their own business for the most part. The main streets are busier. The alleyways seem to be quieter at this time, fortunately, whether it's people out there playing their trade or otherwise. And eventually the cat takes a turn down what appears to be an especially filthy alleyway. There's garbage piled waist high on either side. There's less cobblestone here as you turn off from the main street and more dirt with a thick covering of kind of scum and slime in a few places. There's one or two rancid puddles. But the cat tends to stay out of them by climbing on nearby boxes, little bits of stone outcropping, and padding along walls that run down the side of it here and there. but still making its way down towards the other side.
Laura's going to stuff the now empty glass and this very full drinking bird into her pack and then raise her little wings up for uppies from Lomric because it will take forever to get this grime out of her little foot pads.
Oh, did you want me to pick you up?
Yes, please. It'll take forever to get this water out if I get wet.
Fair enough. And I pick her up and just kind of place her on my shoulder. So
Just
now
sort
here's
of
this like
up there.
4'11" dwarf with this owl on their shoulder.
We're 5 feet tall.
You begin to make your way down the alleyway with Law being kept out of the worst of it. The cat gets about halfway down before there's suddenly a bit of movement from a large pile of garbage on the right-hand side. And this tall, filth-encrusted figure begins to rise out of one of the piles. You can hear boxes and bits of glass just clattering as he pushes it all to one side and stares up first at the cat and then flickers its gaze down to you. This appears to be an ogreish creature of some fashion. And it grins as it sees first the cat and then the rest of you. Oh, you should have known better than to bring your friends down my alleyway, Gus. And he turns and draws a long, wicked-looking dagger from a sheath on his belt. Now then, he says, and he casually just starts tossing it from hand to hand. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Let's have your valuables. Come on.
I would like to interrupt this very intimidating fellow with a very horrible noise. And if anyone is wearing headphones, I'm going to give you 5 seconds to lower your volume because this noise is... As I cast Hex, and this Hex is the... Which one is this? Oh, this is what happens when you play new classes.
Please be wisdom, please.
It's Shriek. So as an action, I release an ear-piercing wail. Each creature within 5 feet of you must make a charisma saving throw or be deafened by the end of my next turn.
What would be the DC for that one?
The DC would be against my charisma modifier, which is 14, please.
Do we all have to roll that as well?
Yes, everybody that can hear me.
I rolled a 2. That's not okay.
Technically, everybody within 5 feet, so
15.
depends how you. Oh, 15. Okay, right.
Okay, so I rolled a nat 20. Can I take a helping action to warn to warn our owl friend to cover her ears?
I don't hear in the normal way. Oh, good.
I would say you can.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
12.
What's that saving throw again?
14.
For sorry, the
Charisma.
type of. Thank you. That's going to be an 18 from me this time. I cover up my hearing.
What are the
sensors.
effects of this?
So the creature is now deafened until the end of my next turn.
Okay, Alvin, can I have you also roll for Rex? And I will say Kelpie needs a roll here as well.
Okay.
Oh boy. So Rex got a 10.
Okay.
Kelpie got a nat 20.
Kelpie's heard this many times and barely even flinches. Rex, on the other hand, it just seems to be pitched at that perfect level for a dog's ears, and all of a sudden bursts out into a horrific yelping and streaks back down the alleyway by a good margin just to try and clear some distance here. Everybody else, Alvin, you yourself become deafened, and the ogre just claps its hands to its head and charges forward. And we will consider that initiative. Alvin, you are up first.
So after kind of recovering from the fact that that shriek happened, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cast Discern True Name on the object in the ogre's hands, that dagger, as a bonus action using Rushed Incantation.
Okay.
So I'll need the ogre to roll a spell saving throw against. Let's see, 14.
It fails it.
Okay, and then I'm going to take out my crossbow and I'm going to take a shot at it.
Okay.
And that is a natural 1.
Okay. You're still kind of thrown off. You're able to get the incantation out now. Does that do anything particular to the ogre?
Not yet. So the way that the investigator's true name magic works is it's kind of a 1-2 combo. First, you learn the true name, and then you can cast utterance spells, which start affecting it afterwards.
Okay. Just for clarification, there's no particular name for this dagger. It's a pretty ordinary street knife, in essence.
Mm-hmm.
The ogre itself, as it kind of barrels down, it's still fighting off the worst of this, and indeed you are as well. And it's as it kind of pushes a wave of garbage to one side that it's enough to put your aim off. And as you pull the trigger on the crossbow, it actually sighs into one piece of wood from one of the boxes and just flies with it off to the one side.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else from you? You've got about 10 feet or so before the ogre closes distance.
I'm gonna try. I'm just gonna try and back up a little bit to get closer to my friends.
Okay. The alleyway is about 7 to 10 feet wide at its widest points.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're all relatively small sizes, you can kind of push past each other without too much issue.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's everything from you, we will be on to Law.
Okay. Laura will sort of lean over and go, Lamric, do you mind if I use your head as an aiming? Can I want to shoot a crossbow.
How are you using my head for this?
Kind of like this. Like with my elbow sort of on your head.
Oh, just seeing you like. I see. You were trying to aim. Well, I suppose as long as you don't hit me, it's fine. Please be mindful of my hat.
I will try not to. Just like pull out a crossbow and let's see here. I want to shoot for the ogre's weapon, but not necessarily the ogre.
Okay.
Just try to disarm.
It's quite a small target, so I would say you probably have disadvantage on this.
That's okay. I appreciate that. Ooh. I got a choice between a 4 and a 3. Atreus, why? That's probably gonna miss.
Sorry, I've already rolled my first nat 1 of the night.
Yeah.
It does unfortunately miss.
That's okay.
Your shot goes off a moment or two after Alvin's, and it's such a small target and glinting off, it just streaks off past. It actually comes a little bit close to the cat at the far end of the alley, who yowls and leaps from the stone as it just clatters where it was a moment or two ago and disappears temporarily from sight.
And then you just hear this little whirring noise, and Laura says, calibrating.
Anything else from you?
No, that's it.
Okay. It's at this point that the ogre comes forward. Now, I'm going to give you guys the opportunity here to explain to me your marching order. So, who is he going to come across first?
If I hadn't just backed off, it would have been me, probably.
I can pick at random if nobody wants to be sure.
I suppose it would have been myself right after that.
It's also you according to the dice, so we're going to go with that.
The moment when you have psychic powers that you don't want. Continue.
Okay, that is 7 points of piercing damage as the ogre closes distance, brings the dagger out, and just punches it forward into the midst of you, and does catch Lomric. Rips it back out again. There's a spurt of blood. And as that happens, there's actually a shot of another arrow striking down towards the rest of you. This one comes perilously close to Law, and the only reason it actually misses is because Lomric's gone backwards and taken a bit of impact from the blow, and it's pulled you both back as the bolt just sighs down where you previously were, pings off the ground and falls back into the garbage. And you look up to see that there's a small figure on one of the nearby rooftops with a bow aiming down into the alleyway. With that, it is... Let's have a look. It's Lomric's turn.
Okay. How far away is that person up there on the upper end of the building?
No more than 15 feet.
Okay.
By the time we count for distance and height, no more than that.
Okay. Then what I'm going to say is what do I want to do here? I'm not even sure what I'm going to say about that. I will have to think about that later. But I am going to use I am going to use the vicious mockery cantrip on the person that is shooting an arrow.
Okay. Now, do they need to make any sort of save with that?
Wisdom.
What's the DC?
Oh, my DC. It is a whopping 13.
It fails that.
So it takes this creature takes 1 whole point of psychic damage, and it has disadvantage on any attack rolls it makes before the end of its next turn, whatever that means.
Okay. You see the figure. It's got a little bit of a hood up. You see a long kind of hook nose poking out from underneath the cowls, but the rest of it seems to be kind of shrouded in shadow. But as you cast this spell, you see it's pulling an arrow from the quiver, and it just shakes its head a little bit, and then seems to get back to pulling and drawing of the bow. Anything else from you?
For the time being, no.
Okay, Elshian.
Okay, so I'm going to do 2 things. So the first thing I do is I take off Kelpie and I just plop them on the floor with their long body. And then I'm going to tell Kelpie to charge at the ogre. And as they do, I'm going to use another hex, Dire Familiar. So you see this tiny little sea otter scampering forwards with their little wavy bodies. And then before the little pitter-patter of the feet become heavy and they start booming, and Kelpie grows in size, big enough to ride, and they are now a dire sea otter. And they will attack the ogre, please.
Okay.
So they get bonus HP to my witch level, and they also get bonus attack points to my charisma, which is +4. So
track of that.
yeah, I will do all of this. So Kelpie is going to bite, please.
Yep, go for it.
For 14 plus 4, 18 to hit.
Yeah, hit.
And the damage is 1d8. That's for 8 piercing damage, please.
No problem. Can I ask for Law, Alvin, and Lomric to make me dex saves, please?
Use different
Dex
words.
save. Why?
17.
Dirty 20.
23.
Fortunately, you've all worked enough with Ocean to kind of get a bit of an inkling, even amidst all the chaos of this moment, to know roughly what's coming. And you're able to push yourselves away into one side of the alleyway to give Kelpie enough room to actually get past you all without clattering you all to the floor. And as it does, it kind of reaches past you, Lomric. Jaw clamps down on the ogre's arm, actually, the one that's got the dagger. And you hear the ogre just begin to pull the arm back, and Kelpie actually manages to hold it in place for the most part. And the ogre reaches another hand for Kelpie's fur and begins to dive, and the pair of them begin to wrestle and grapple on the floor between themselves. And you can just hear the ogre, "What in the hell's is this thing?" As they begin to wrestle, we're going to go back to the top of the initiative order with Alvin. It's your turn.
All right. I am going to cast a spell called Utter Energy. So since I have that dagger's true name, I'm able to alter it ever so subtly to make it start giving off bursts of magical energy, harming anyone holding it.
Mm-hmm.
So because I've already got the true name actually has a saving throw. So therefore, once I have that true name, there's no more saving throws and stuff like that. So anyone holding it takes 3d8 damage when I first cast the spell. And
again, if they touch it on a turn, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. You choose the damage type and let me know how much damage it actually deals.
We're going to do lightning damage.
Okay.
And that is going to be 6, 7, 9 lightning damage.
9 points of lightning damage.
Mm-hmm.
No worries. You see...
And...
Go ahead.
Continue.
You see reflexively as this burst of lightning energy begins to coalesce around the blade and then shoot back into the handle and up the ogre's arm. It reflexively lets go of the weapon that drops to the floor in a clatter. It actually lands in one of the muddier puddles on the ground. You just see sparks and lightning crackle flashing across the surface of this pool. And as the lightning travels a little bit further up the ogre's arm and begins to kind of be absorbed by the mass of the creature, but you see in between the teeth that Kelpie's got latched onto the arm, you just see flickers of lightning just running up and down the canines briefly as well. Doesn't seem to harm him. But anything else from you at that point?
I'm then going to take another shot with my crossbow.
Yep.
This time at the person that was taking shots at us from above.
So the spell's an action, right?
I'm using Rushed Incantation, which turns it into a bonus action.
Cool. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Investigators can't cast spells as anything other than rituals, so without Rushed Incantation, everything would take like a minute to 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can do that a few times. Anyways, let's see here. A little bit better this time. We got a 14 to attack.
That'll hit. Go ahead and roll some damage.
Alrighty. And that will be 8 damage.
Okay. This shot goes out literally just as he's kind of pulling the bow back and straight through the base of the throat up into the cowl. You see him flick back, and you actually see the nose and the cowl fall back to reveal a small goblin figure, and it's kind of outlined against the sky as it topples over. The bow and the arrow fall clatter, and the bow actually prangs off the end of the building and tumbles down into the alley amongst you all. Anything else?
That'll be it.
Okay. That's going to put us to Law.
Okay, is there still a person on the roof?
No.
Wait, sorry, I kind of phased out. Can we have a recap of what happened in the last round?
The figure on the roof has taken an arrow through the throat and is now dead.
That's a lot. Okay. Nice job, Alvin.
The ogre is currently grappling with a giant sea otter. and has lost its weapon because lightning's flashed up and down the entirety of its arm and been focused around the weapon as a whole. So it's currently unarmed.
This is... let's see. I'm gonna use... Can I try to use a persuasion check to get this guy to just give up?
I mean, you can try.
I can certainly try.
What is it you say to him?
I say, do you like the hard way yet?
Okay, go ahead and roll the persuasion check for me.
Okay. Persuasion is going to be... It's just a 10.
Roll it again for me.
Unless he likes cute things. Does he like cute things? That was worse. That's a 4.
Okay. Seeing as the only other cute thing in the area was an otter that suddenly latched onto its arm and turned into a nightmare creature. As you kind of say that, the ogre's busy grappling with Kelpie and trying desperately to unhinge this jaw. Call it off! Call off enough! I've had it! The choice, of course, being Ocean's whether or not Kelpie does get called off. Okay. And no signal comes forth. Anything else from you, Law?
Okay. I guess the persuasion check was my action. Or my yeah. No, nothing else for me. I'll just say, oh, this guy really likes the hard way, huh?
Okay. Ocean, can I have you make a athletics check for Kelpie, please?
Right, bear with me. Oh, otters are so cute. Okay, now it's just loading and making me sad. Okay, there we go. Athletics check. Oh, that's a D8. That's why that happened. I was like, what? 18, please.
18. Okay. It's tough, but there comes a moment where the ogre just about manages to get an elbow into Kelpie that gets deep into the ribs and reflexively kind of opens his jaw with the impact. And at that moment, the ogre manages to break free, give Kelpie a bit of a push back towards you, and scrambles to his feet and begins to run pell-mell down the alley away from you all. It is Lomric's turn.
So we happen to have a person grappling with an otter.
The ogre has managed to break free from the otter and is every intention of leaving the alley by what you can tell, just running pell-mell down it right now.
Okay. I'm gonna hate myself after this. I really am.
Say I'll mute.
But I am going to tell them that that we battled there was utterly adorable. Before casting Tasha's hideous laughter.
Okay.
Right. It was the wisdom saving throw of 13.
Fails that immeasurably. So as it kind of gets about halfway down the alley, one free arm swings and knocks a bunch of crates out of the way, gets out into the clearing, and then just and just falls and collapses to one side, clutching a bloody arm to its chest, laughing in hysterics. And currently,
I'd like having these little things to keep in handy for moments like this. Although this wound is no joking matter. What was he doing with that knife exactly?
Threatening us?
Do you want to ask your cat friend why they took us to an alleyway with someone who had a knife?
I believe he.
Oh,
I believe the ogre called the cat Gus.
I
I
think,
think we'll be fine with them being occupied until we learn what's happening here.
How long does the deafen condition last, Ocean?
That's already over, but my dire familiar lasts. But how long does that last? Oh, for 1 minute.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kelpie will be normal size again.
So have you any particular instructions for Kelpie at this time?
Yes, sit on the ogre.
On the ogre, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Kelpie just runs the rest of the way. And the laughter becomes muffled all of a sudden as the otter just down on the figure, and you can hear it. That wheeze of struggled, just hysterical laughter that's just on the point of bursting somebody's ribs, combined with the weight of the otter, and the laughter just transcends into just this kind of soft wheezing with a figure that just cannot possibly get enough breath back. And indeed, he seems intent and content to sit. Rex, meanwhile, potters back down the alleyway, looking a little bit ashamed of himself, kind of head hanging a little bit low. Sits at one stage and scratching at the back of his ear, as if to kind of try and dislodge any lingering after effects. And as he does that, the figure of the cat reappears a little bit further down the alley. It clambers up a few boxes and leaps onto a small window. Just sits on the ledge, tail dangling down a little bit. It's one of the cleaner spots of the alley as far as you can figure. And it just looks down at the ogre and the enormous sea otter. Looks there back at the rest of you.
I then tell Kelpie to put the ogre in his armpit pouch.
Going to be a little bit too big for that, I would think.
Dire otter, large.
How large exactly is a dire otter? Because this is an ogre. It's a big creature in its own accord.
It's a large animal, and the fact that they can put oysters, which if you ever see an oyster on an otter belly, in their armpit pouch to save for later, I think a dire otter could fit an ogre in its armpit pouch.
Go ahead and make an athletics
So
check.
it's not even the argument about whether the creature could fit in there. Can we just take a step back to the fact that your creature has an armpit pouch to put things into?
That's what sea otters have. They say they put their favorite shells in there and like oysters they're gonna eat later. But I did all the research. Okay.
Go ahead and make athletics checks at disadvantage.
Oh, okay. 14, please.
You see that Kelpie attempts it, but the mass and the girth of this figure makes it incredibly difficult. He manages to just about get the head in there, which muffles the laughter even further, but that's about it.
Cool. And I imagine a minute has passed now, so Kelpie starts to shrink.
And in doing so, the ogre's head doesn't change size, so Kelpie's at risk of causing himself injury here.
It would release as he starts to shrink. Kelpie's a smart sea otter.
Okay. How long does Tasha's laughter last? Is it a minute?
How long does the laughter last? It lasts a minute.
Okay. So you've got a little bit more time before the ogre begins to recover from this. Is there anything particular you want to do with them before that happens?
What are we going to do with it? Did we put him in the pouch? Is he in the pouch?
No. He didn't make it into the pouch.
Okay. Well, do we want to keep this person alive and send them to the proper authorities?
That's what a good detective does.
Yes, no opinion.
Alvin, I want to say it might be worth getting some kind of explanation on what's happening here before the situation potentially becomes worse.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Mr. Ogre.
You can just kind of see him struggling to get his breath back after the attack of the hideous laughter.
So what's with the whole attacking us?
I've never been in an alley in a beggar's quarter before. Just want to
What
make sure.
weaponellas like this?
Now everybody just wants to make a bit of gold. Didn't really want to hurt anyone.
What's with Gus?
There's Gus in it. He's a cat.
Whose cat?
I don't know. I've always assumed he didn't have an owner.
Ah, you called him Gus.
Yeah, that's his name, Gus.
How did you know his name?
Because he told me.
I look at the cat
The
and then
cat's
look
just
back.
casually kind of licking at one paw as this whole debate goes on. It looks back at you. I do apologize for that little mishap. I took a rather foolish shortcut, I'm afraid. But I'm rather pressed for time. And he's right, my name is Asparagus. But everyone does call me Gus. If you're quite done with him, I have a thing to get to, and I'd very much appreciate if you came with me.
Do you breathe water?
Have you ever known a cat to breathe water?
Well, I've never known a cat to speak. I can only speak to things that breathe water, and here you are speaking.
I'm a very
Rex
talented cat.
talks.
You know, I'm going to ask the ogre what his name is or what their name is. I do not know if they are male or female for that matter, I guess.
Appears to be male.
Ah,
And he's kind of pulling the arm and just clutching at the worst of the bleeding. Looks up at you almost incredulously. I don't think I've ever mugged anyone who wanted to know my name before. You want to hand me into the town guard? Is that it? Tell them who to look for.
well, I don't see a guard around here right now, and I'm certainly not going to look for them. It's very inconvenient.
And I'll be honest, I'd be more convinced to be in favor of you if your methods were at least a little bit more inventive. That was kind of uncreative.
Do you want me to fix that?
No, I don't want anything to do with you or that thing. And he kicks a foot out at roughly where Kelpie was, who skitters a few feet back now that he's shrunk in size.
Well, from what I can tell, Kelpie is one of those creatures that has a tendency to behave that way when they see someone getting stabbed.
Kelpie bites and then casts Chill Touch.
Okay.
So, range makes a 12 attack. 15.
Yeah, I'll hit.
4 points of necrotic damage, please.
Okay. You hear the ogre flinch immediately, and what happens is, as much as Kelpie bites and lets go, there's like a phantasmal image of his jaw and just the teeth latched onto one of the ogre's toes. And the ogre immediately just feels this numbness and this cold sensation spreading up the rest of its leg. And it's beginning to pull itself up and lurching towards the alleyway. And as it does so, it begins to make its way away from you, but it's struggling with the one foot. Oh, dead leg, dead leg, dead leg. It kind of just makes its way shuffling away from you as best it can.
He should have listened. Oh well. So
If
Gus,
you're quite
right.
finished.
Oh, Rex, you can talk too. I'm pointing at asparagus.
I'm barely interested in talking to you, not dogs. And you just see Rex growl, lone kind of rumbling in the throat a little bit at that. Told you.
Fair enough.
I put my hand down to have Kelpie wave bounce over to me and then scamper up my arm.
And he does, just kind of assumes that same position once more.
Yeah. Sea otter scarf.
I am confused. Is this furniture or is it a real otter?
Magic otter.
Magic otters, magic owls, magic dogs.
I'm not an owl.
You look like an owl. You don't smell like one, but you look like one.
It is who?
Oh.
Ooh.
I don't really have time for this. Would you
turn
please?
I turn my head all the way around to make the whirring noise.
That's frightening. And as he says that, Gus turns and hops down the remainder of the boxes and gets back into the alley itself and begins to walk further down the remainder of it. Occasionally flickers back to look to see if anyone follows.
All right, it's back to be. We're gonna get hot on the trail. Let's go.
I don't like it, says Rex.
That's probably a trap. That's okay.
Why is your attitude to traps always that it's okay?
Well, I'm still alive.
And you make it hard work.
And Alvin races off.
Gus doesn't go far. He gets to the end of the alleyway, crosses a narrow street, and then enters a small, seemingly abandoned warehouse. He goes through one of the small cracks in the stonework, but the door is open, and you're able to make your way inside. The building's about 40 foot wide and appears to be made of bricks with some boarded up windows. Looks like it hasn't been used for quite some time. As you enter, the first room you enter into looks to be a small office, perhaps, but is full of dust and clutter and detritus from years of neglect. There's a single door in the back wall with a little bit of light spilling out from underneath it. No sign of Gus at present.
Hello.
We're in the next room. And you hear this voice come from the other side of this door where there's that little bit of light underneath.
Who is we?
Just open the door. You will find out.
Mm.
This is totally a trap.
I do it myself, but I don't have
You
time.
know who's on the other side of the door, but don't want to tell us who's on the other side of the door. You see him open up like a small little like piece of parchment or like a little notebook or whatever and make a small note.
Mike, can you let me down now, please?
And I very gently pick up lore and place them
Thank you.
on the ground.
DM.
Yes.
Can
Do you still have the beer from the earlier thing with the
what?
little creature that's sipping on it?
That's in my bag. I
Okay.
was wondering, and this is in no way part of the mechanics, if I can take off one of my eyes and kind of slip it underneath the door to look inside the room.
You've got a sewing kit, haven't you?
I do.
Are the eyes buttons?
Yes.
If you unpick it but leave enough of a strand to go between, then yes.
I will take out a
But you will
length
have
of thread
to-
and make myself a new retina to pop and extend my vision.
You will have to spend probably a turn or more fixing the eye back into place. But
It's okay.
otherwise, yes.
I'll probably hold it in my hand for a while. Or use it like as a grappling hook. That's really weird. Would you like me to make a perception check for you?
No, you don't need to make a perception check to see what's on the other side.
All right, I take off my eye and sort of sew myself to it and give myself I will give myself about 2 feet of give.
The small black button just slides under the door frame. And you hear a yowl from the other side of just surprise as you see Gus take a leap back, the first stance on end, as he comes back down and just freezes. And as he settles, you see that his surprise has spread to the armada of cats that sit within the inside of this room. They are across benches. They are scattered upon small bricks that are outlined from the stone. They're on benches. They're on shelves. They are everywhere.
Why have I chosen to play a living cat toy for this adventure? I pull back my eye and I say, when they say we, they mean there's a lot of cats in there.
It's an ambush.
It very well might be. Instead of sewing it back on, because that might take some time, I'm just going to wrap it around myself like a necklace and have it hang like an amulet in the center of my chest.
Do you have like one like point of vision that just kind of constantly moves back and forth like this?
Yeah, a little bit.
If I was malicious, I'd be making you do con saves if it gets out.
I'm a construct, so there's nothing to throw up.
Yeah.
You're also a construct, but allergic to cats.
I know, right? I think it's just some dander got stuck in my filter.
Oh goodness. Right, so let's trap. Who wants to go first?
Well, cats hate water, I say. And DM, I start to conjure, create, and destroy water. To go underneath the door.
Okay.
Just going to flood the room a little bit.
What kind of range are we talking, or area of effect are we talking for that?
Good question. Please don't ask any more like that. Let me just get the spell up.
What was it called?
Create and destroy water. First level spell.
I'll be able to get it, hold on.
I think it's first level or second. One of those.
Let's have a look. 10 gallons of clean water within range in an open container. Or it falls as rain on a 30-foot cube within range.
Yeah, rain. I'm quite happy with rain as well. Like,
Okay.
it to like go underneath the door, rise up, and then rain down.
I would say you'd probably need line of sight for it. So you'd have to kind of open the door to cast it.
Okay, fine. I kick the door open and then toss that.
Okay. You begin to cast, and as you enter the room, you see that Asparagus, you wouldn't have known it, but Law, you'd recognize that he's stepped back a little bit, and he's actually on, almost a pedestal in the center of the room, just kind of sat very languidly licking at a paw for a second or two before clouds begin to form inside the roof and structure of this dilapidated warehouse. All the cats look up, and there's a horrific meowling and yowling from Moles. The first drops of rain begin to fall, and they scatter as a horde for whatever bits of cover they can find. What are you doing? And this is from Asparagus, who's managed to kind of get himself underneath one of the benches nearby and just cowering from the worst of this storm. We bring you here for help, and this is what you do?
Ah, help! Why didn't you say so? I thought it was going to be a cat ambush.
We've never heard of cats ambushing anything other than a mouse.
So,
Make it
as a
stop.
thought, Gus, we didn't know about the ambush that was going to be in the alley either. I had no plans to be ambushed by an ogre today.
Neither did I.
Hmm.
The time I took the shortest route, I thought he'd be busy somewhere else.
Maybe, but I believe you'll understand our little bit of suspicion and some precautions.
This is not a precaution. This is an assault if you're not careful. Turn it off!
I have no control over that, and I believe you should be nicer to the person who does.
Agreed.
You
Say
see that
please.
one or two of the cats are beginning to actually depart the area and just working their way through as many cracks as they can. This is the Congress of Cats. This is not appropriate behavior.
Say please.
Please, fine, just stop it. And the waters begin to recede. You see one or two cats tentatively begin to come out, but the numbers have thinned. You've lost probably around about 20 to 30 of them out of the many hundreds that were there. This is not a good start to proceedings.
DM, can I just go round and start to prestidigitate each cat that got wet? I'm going to make them super fluffy.
You can try on the nearest one. Go ahead and make a persuasion check at disadvantage.
Why do I need persuasion? I can just cast it.
You can cast it, but it's going to have, what's the range on it? Like 30 feet?
10 feet. We're in the room. How big is this room?
Yeah, fair enough. You can get away with it. I'm thinking it's touch, but it's not.
No, it's not.
That's fine. You're able to do so. You see that the cats are very resistant to your approach at all. In fact, the majority are trying to keep as far from you as they consistently can. But the first one you kind of get hold of is just a kind of traditional ginger tabby. And as you cast it, you just the whole thing just almost doubles in mass by size.
There we
What
go.
are you doing now? Could you please stop assaulting the members of the court?
They were wet. You do not like to be wet, so I'm making you dry. And then I
They're
do.
wet because of you.
And now I'm trying to fix it. You are a very fussy animal. And then I prestidigitate Gus.
And Gus is one of the worst of them there for this because Persians are notoriously fluffy to start with. He turns into a giant fluff ball in essence. I already begin to regret all of my decisions tonight. And he begins to lick at one paw as best he can, and you see that those of them that have been prestidigitated are trying as best as they can to recover any sense of decorum and dignity.
Does anyone else like to be dry?
You see a very small cat begin to approach you. It's like a munchkin kitten, if you're familiar at all. They're like the sausage dogs with the really tiny legs, in essence. And it's small. It looks quite young. And it pokes its nose out from on one of the nearer benches and takes a tentative step or two forward. It gets a hiss of warning from one of the older, bigger ones next by. And it kind of shies away, but still takes the step or two forward at a bit more of an angle.
Would you like to be dry?
Please. And
This one I don't make fluffy. I just make it dry.
It kind of does a little bit, but it's very, very minimal as much as you can control. And it's quite a short-haired animal as well. So the worst of the effects are not present on this. And it gives a small kind of comforted meow as it slides back and takes a small seat on one of the benches. And the other cats seem to be adopting their old positions. There's one or two that seem to be vying almost for their positions, as though there's like a power echelon here.
Hey.
Rex, meanwhile, just sits next to the door looking very uncomfortable with the whole situation.
How did you all learn to speak?
It's not all of us, just a handful.
That didn't answer my question.
Neverwinter is a city that has been assaulted by a great deal of mages in the past. There are some strange lingering effects of the magic. Why am I explaining myself to a talking owl?
Because you like me.
Better than that one, certainly.
Oh.
So, I have a standard contract for clients. And he pulls out this like crumbled up piece of paper, and like and it's like scribbled on like I'll solve the crime, you'll pay me money, and just like a place to sign.
Does it have the word contract, but with like a K in reverse?
Yes.
Oh, with a slash through it.
Yes.
You see Gus takes a step or two towards you, and there's a bit of a look he shares between himself and the Sphinx cat that is sat just off to one side, and it seems to be almost incredulous before he takes a step or two towards you. Looks over the contract for a moment, says, I can give you a paw print, I suppose.
Perfect. This is totally legally binding.
You have done this kind of thing before. You don't even know what we want from you.
That's a great
Look,
question. What do you want from us, Alvin?
I can do it all. No mystery too small, no mystery too big.
I told you I'd got the right one. He says, and he looks back at the Sphinx kitten who just scowls in return. Well, to answer your question, I am the first speaker of this house. And we have a bit of a situation. Normally, you would be greeted by the king. Unfortunately, the king has gone missing. We need someone to find him.
So I need to track down a king?
The king of the cats. And according to our laws, if he fails to attend this congress for 3 nights running, he's stripped of his title and exiled forever, which would be a disaster. And tonight is the 3rd night that he has been absent.
Why don't you just change the rules if it would be a disaster?
We can't change the rules, only the king can change the rules.
How do you know he hasn't already changed the rules?
Because he has not submitted a form to the rest of us.
Oh, yeah, gotta have that legal work.
We have done what we can to search for him in the meantime, but for now the Congress has authorized me to get the services of someone, of you big folk, to help us, because we are not getting very far. And we can pay you gold. We know you like this sort of thing.
Yes. Was the king wearing anything like a crown or a scepter or whatever cats have when they are king?
All he had was his usual collar.
Can you describe the collar to me in detail?
It's simple enough. It was largely of fine leather and gold inlaid on some of the studs. Occasionally he wore a bell, but only when the mood struck him. Very official circumstances. You understand, of course.
When did you last see the king?
Personally, a while ago. But as I said, he has not attended Congress in almost 3 nights.
Alvin,
Yeah?
I possess an ability to locate an object, but I would need to find the exact object that I'm looking for, and this description is lacking.
So, we need like a picture of the king that has the collar on it?
Yes, or something.
Trying to think. King, like, does it have a? I mean, do any of you have owners? Like, are y'all pets of somebody, or y'all just out
Cats
here on your
don't
own?
have owners.
Do you have a roommate?
Some of us have places we like to go more than others.
On the
There's a
king?
general kind of mewling of agreement from the associated audience.
I think at the very most, cats have companions that they choose rather than owners, if anything. At least from what I've been able to observe.
We have big folk that we tolerate.
Okay, does the king have any big folk that he tolerates?
No, the king usually spends his time here.
Oh, you know, there's always when a cat and a big folk hang out, the big folk always commissions tons and tons of photos and art pieces of these cats and then shares them with all the people. I was hoping we could get one of those, but dang it.
I could give you his favorite ball of yarn.
Would that
Did
be
the
helpful? Lauren, would that be helpful?
No, unfortunately not. It would have to be something that's currently on the king of the cats.
did your king have any enemies?
There were two others that would have fit that description. The first and most obvious is the Rat Lord, or the Rat King. They have been mortal enemies we have been mortal enemies for a very long time. And the other was the Warlord, but the king recently signed peace with him.
So where did the king disappear from?
I don't know where he disappeared from as such. He comes and goes as he pleases. He just went and has not come back.
Where was it last seen?
Here, I suppose.
Who's acting regent here?
I am the speaker for now.
What's your name? Are we talking to Gus?
Yes.
Okay. It's just a room full of cats. So.
There is. Most of them seem just to be chipping in with the occasional meows and mews, but don't appear to be capable of communication in a language that you would understand, at least, not common or anything.
Does the king speak as well, or is it that they don't speak either?
To the big folk, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
And as Gus finishes saying that, the small munchkin kitten that you dried off earlier picks up. Yes, he does. Yes. Be quiet, Pommelina. You see a little bit of chastisement. It kind of shrinks back a little bit, but it's with that kind of sense that they're willing to chip in again if they get the opportunity. But yes, she's correct. The king does speak when he deigns it necessary.
I'd like to roll an insight check.
Okay.
Because that ogre implied that Gus knew better than to lead us through there. And I'm having a hard time discerning whether Gus was attempting to test us for our abilities or get rid of us early and say, well, I tried to find big folk and it failed.
Okay.
It's also not being super straightforward with information. Let's see, it's 11 plus 4 is 15 on my insight check.
You get the sense that over the course of this kind of talk that you've had, and in light of the events, you get the sense that Gus hasn't perhaps told you everything as yet.
Okay. I just kind of smile and whir a little bit.
So, sorry, I just read the chat. So, is there anything else you'd like to add, Gus?
Well, if you're struggling to find a place to start, I'd suggest seeing the rat boss. It's the most obvious person behind all of this. They have a hideout not far from here. We found it recently. The corner of Rock Edge Road and Abbey Way. I can lead you there.
Are you gonna lead us into an ogre again?
Not if I can help it.
I mean, if you do, I'll have fun.
You can also see the Wayside Oracle. And this is from the small Bumbleina kitten again.
Well, now that sounds like a clue.
Will you stop?
An oracle. An oracle, you say?
Yes, the Wayside Oracle. She was a friend of the king's. He often sought her out for advice.
I bring out some of my rations, which is just dried fish.
You immediately see the whiskers beginning to twitch on quite a few of the cats nearby. One or two meow. There's a few hisses from those that are on slightly higher benches, as though to kind of shut them down a little bit. But you still see quite a few are hesitant, considering your first action upon meeting them was to drench them all.
But it was a fir bush. I break off a piece of this like dried anchovy, and I just kind of like put it down in front of Mumbleina.
She takes a step or two forward. You see Gus just glaring daggers at her, but doesn't say anything. And Bumbleina just takes it, runs back, scampers under the bench before wolfing it down.
I have all this dried fish and no one to share it with.
Gaze immediately flickers to Gus, who hisses in response. And Bumbleina shrinks back under the bench this time.
If only I had someone to share it with, who would share information with me. And
You
I
can
nibble.
share all the fish you want when this is done, but I have precious little time before sundown.
You are withholding information.
What? Why
You
would
are-
I do?
Might I be able to perform what Oneshots has said in a more dramatic fashion?
How so?
So, cue a spotlight from where we don't know.
Press
and I
check.
like repeat everything that she just said in the most dramatic of fashions. But a morsel for just a wee bit of information about where we might be able to find our common cat friend. As I walk by and start pulling people out of the audience. You there, he was a friend of yours, was he not? Gone missing from the rat boss?
Cast
Now
guidance.
pray when once there was a predator? Is that a thing that you would allow to those subjects of your kingdom? Almost certainly. I almost certainly believe that you would not.
I would like to assist with some illusion magic, some minor illusion magic and some prestidigitation to like make the candles flicker ominously. Especially the bit about predator. Flicker, 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 flicker.
And here we are, but mere visitors, a trifle, almost an inconvenience, except for the fact that we are unable to assist you in the ways that you might wish, because we lack but a bit of simple information. Now, over here, our friend, generous, I would say, has offered rations in flavors that I do believe would be to your liking. If you would be so inclined as to incline your whiskers, one and all, and share with us just a little bit more of what you know. Would anyone in the audience be willing to assist? Is it you, our calico friend?
The calico in particular just kind of whiskers down a little bit. Just
It's at this point I break open the pickled, smelly fish out of its glass jar from the rations.
And you've, Lorik, as you've delivered this rather astoundingly captivating speech to your audience, there has been a general kind of mewling from some of the what seem to be the lower ranks of these cats. There's been one or two high-pitched meows, indeed hisses coming from some of those on the higher benches before hisses come back. And there seems to be a little bit of an uproar and a clamour beginning to form here.
I would like to address the people on the top row.
Go ahead.
Madam Ocean, if you would.
Spotlight.
I'm going to actually ask for some of the rations that she has.
Oh yeah, she passes over the very smelly pickled herring that she has in a jar. It's like got jelly in it and all sorts. It's pungent.
I do understand that there is a little bit of concern, but understand that we have not come here for discord. In fact, we have come here suffering near death, as it were, as I show the wound that I got from the alley, to ask but a question to be of further assistance. I do not believe, to our knowledge, we have even asked for anything in return, and we continue to bring forth of our goodness and generosity things to share. That being said, would you, addressing the people on the top row, allow anyone to share a bit more information about what's happening here, that we might complete our information in the limited amount of time that we do have left?
The clamour in the uproar begins to spread. The pop of pickled herring kind of just sends it into a climactic scrap almost. You see one or two of them begin to kind of tumble and fight on the far edges.
And I see like the jar being lit by her illusion magic, kind of like those vignettes at a show. Yep.
And as you kind of deliver this to the top row, you see Asparagus just kind of closing his eyes and just letting this clamor build and build. Finally, he just remarks to you, "They can't all speak." And as he does that, he pushes a small jar that's just in front of him with his paw. And it falls from the top of the bench and shatters on the ground. And as it does so, immediately the clamor just subsides across the entirety of the warehouse. I call order. And indeed, order is restored in some fashion or other. And finally, Gus glares past you all to look at Alvin. You have a contract. You I can reason with.
Yep, I'm in charge here, totally.
Will you find the king for us?
Of course.
Splendid.
I have a contract. So, this oracle.
Yes.
Lead the way.
To the oracle or to the rat boss?
Yes, the oracle.
Very well. And he prances down from the step or two and heads back towards the door that you guys entered in from. She's not far from here, so it will be a short trip. Come.
I leave the dried anchovies and the pickled herring behind.
I saunter up to Alvin and I look up at him and go, Ocean is right. That cat is not telling us everything.
Yeah, I agree. But, while he's around 100 friends, maybe if we don't, push too hard.
Hmm.
But, he's guiding us somewhere else now.
Yes.
Lamrick, that was amazing.
Yes, you like that.
Yes. You should do that more often. Hello?
Lamrick? Lamrick?
What? Do I need to make a roll?
You're being complimented.
I'm sorry. I missed it.
I said Lamrick, that
Sorry,
was amazing.
I was in character while being in character. It takes a while to get through that meta. Why hoops am I being complimented?
The performance you just did, that was amazing. If you
Oh, boy, thank you.
If you could promote my business, I would have a real office. I would have a real office.
Well, I do have a certain trait as a storyteller. Should anyone require those services?
Mm-hmm.
Where? So have we made a deal? Have we learned anything? Are we going on an adventure?
We are. Look, I got the contract.
We're following Gus to
I take the
Oracle.
time to read the contract that Alvin has
It is
in
2
detail.
sentences.
It is
It
2
is-
sentences.
Yeah, it's like, I will solve the case. You will pay me money. Misspelled contract at the top. Cat paw at the bottom.
Great.
Alvin, I would like to offer you my additional services and just maybe adding some words to your contract that might tell a more interesting story that will hopefully keep you out of trouble.
I trust you implicitly.
And indeed, as you mentioned, trouble. You all exit the warehouse, close the door behind you, and it's at that moment it's like a trigger has gone off because the jar of pickled herring and the anchovies suddenly, without Gus present, the entire warehouse erupts into chaos. You hear all manner of yowls, mewlings, and just absolute bedlam as the cats fight over what's remaining. And as you begin to work your way further down the street, we will take our break and we will come back to continue this in a very short while. Those of you out there in the audience, hope you're having fun. We will be back with you very, very soon. And we are back. Hello. We're back with more Dungeons and Dragons here on Goldhart G. And let's get right back into the action with the King of the Cats adventure tonight. You guys have just exited the warehouse full of the Cat Congress after trying to drench it, offering it food, delivering a resounding performance and a stirring speech, and casting doubt upon the leader of the Congress as such. That said leader is now currently leading you down the streets towards a place called Cooper's Road, which is near the main river that runs through the city of Neverwinter. As you begin to approach, it's still fairly early evening, so the streets are quite busy. There's plenty of sailors, the artisans that Neverwinter is famed for. There's tradesmen, even paupers looking for a cheap night. And he's leading you to see the Wayside Oracle. And he's fairly easy to spot, kind of very dignified as he weaves his way in and out of the various foot traffic. But eventually this white Persian cat stops in front of a small female figure at the side of the road. Alvin, you'd immediately recognize him to be a gnome. And she's dressed in a mismatched outfit. Has one eye, the other one seems to be a glass orb of some fashion, wild hair, and an old battered hat. Several bags of all sorts of materials and what looks like outright junk surrounds her position. And she looks up as the cat approaches. Gus! Gus! You are very late. Have you only now found adventurers to help? I've only got a few hours left. It's not as easy as you seem to think, replies Gus. Let me look at them, she says, and she scrabbles in a pocket for a little while before pulling out a pair of half-moon cracked spectacles and looks down them at the rest of you. Was this really the best you could do, Gus? Well, needs must. Needs must. Welcome.
Excuse me. I'm a professional.
Oh, of course. Of course. Never doubted. Never doubted. What's your name?
Alvin.
A pleasure, a pleasure. I'm the Oracle, I suppose. Is what everyone calls me nowadays. You've agreed to find the king, yes?
Yep, got a contract.
So you have. And she just kind of reads the two lines of the pulpit. Yes. And just takes the glasses off, polishes them a little bit, looks back. Yes, definitely a contract. Very valid. Stand up in the law courts of law, I'm sure. I hope you do find him. It's been 3 nights since I last saw him.
Where did you last see him?
Oh, he came to me for advice. He does it quite a bit. Wanted to know what I thought about his recent treaty with the Warlord. Some of the cats seemed less than enthusiastic about the idea, but then the Congress is always snapping and muling at itself. I told him to persevere with it. It's a sensible option if you ask me.
So to be clear, the cat king was here.
No, I haven't seen him for days.
No, a few days ago.
Yes, 3 days
This
ago.
spot.
Yes,
Okay, perfect.
that's generally what here means.
Some people have a loose definition of here. Anyways, could you give a description of the cat's collar to my friend here?
The Cat King's collar? It's been a while since I really paid it any great attention. It's leather, very fine, brown leather. Gold studs, kind of offsets across it. Occasionally ties a silver bell to it with a pink ribbon.
Was the Cat King wearing it the last time that you saw him?
He was, yes. Does
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to find him using my own magical arts, but I haven't had any luck.
Interesting. Are you capable of casting perhaps some sort of illusion spell that would show me what the collar looks like?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
As she says that, she reaches into the various sacks and bags that are surrounding her current person. Let's have a quick look. And comes out with a small bit of what looks to be fleece wool and rubs it between her fingers for a moment or two. And with the other hand makes a bit of an arcane gesture, and you hear and kind of feel that strange twist in the air of magical energy beginning to seep into the world and congeal. And as it does, a hand sparks and the small blue illusion begins to rotate in front of you. And it's a very simple, but understatedly elegant collar, as far as you can tell. And it does indeed match the description that she's given to you.
That is much more helpful. I believe I am familiar with this now.
I hope it helps.
I do as well.
I fear if he doesn't return, this treaty with the wargs will break down and there'll be awful amounts of bloodshed.
Is there any particular cat that didn't care for this contract or treaty?
You would do better to ask us, I suppose. I only speak to a handful of the cats. The king, usually. And Gus is just kind of languidly stretching out as much as he can on one of the nearby crates, a little bit of the front paws out. There were a few that did not like the idea. I myself was not too keen, but eventually I saw the point the king was making.
I'm gonna need some names here.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to need some names here.
There's a lot of... Did you not see the Congress of Cats? There's a huge amount of us.
So there was that many people that were mutinous towards the king's
Not
will?
mutinous. The cats disagree about everything. And occasionally, the king talks them round. But there were a few. Myself, I was talked round. There was Pouncival, of course. He's very vocal. Even Bigglesworth, a little. Minerva was less trouble than she usually is.
Oh.
Question. This may have escaped me earlier, but I'm wondering if the treaty that was meant to be signed between the King of Cats and the Works, is it valid now?
Yes, it's been valid for about a week, 10 days, a little more.
And does it
perhaps.
remain valid if he does not show back up?
It would, but whoever takes his place would have the power to undo it if they wished.
Oh, and who would that be?
I don't know. They would be voted upon.
Hmm.
Oh. Well,
Why were they trying to make a treaty with the Warg in the first place?
We have enemies as it is. The rat boss has always been a thorn in our side, but trying to protect ourselves from them and the warlord at the same time is not easy. The king believed it was best to try and earn a peace with the warlord, and then we could concentrate our efforts in one direction. And the warlord himself, who also doesn't get along with the rat boss, could have a similar circumstance.
Hmm.
And he went to make that treaty alone.
He took a guard with him, of course. I mean, this is the warlord I'm talking about.
Did the guard
Agreed.
come back?
They all came back fine. Like I said, it was signed a 10 days ago.
so
Given my recent encounter with a contract, I'm not sure if anyone read it. I am concerned.
We don't have thumbs, so we don't really write contracts. That's a you thing.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. If it were to come to a vote, who do you think, in your expert opinion, as the speaker, would have the best shot of being elected?
There are a few factions that would always vote for themselves, but be one of the elders. Bigglesworth perhaps would be an option, but heaven help us if he gets it. Minerva, perhaps.
What about you?
It's possible. They did elect me speaker, so. And if that means anything.
Well, we have two groups to talk to. The wargs or the rats, and I don't know what the wargs stand to gain by breaking their own treaty.
They're wargs. And he shoots a glance at Rex as he kind of pitches his voice a little bit lower. They don't ever do anything that makes sense. They're very instinctual creatures.
This is why I like otters. They just want to nap and float all day.
As you say that, the jaw unhinges and the tail kind of flops down across you a little bit. Old jaw just yawns. Paul begins. In fact, actually, go ahead and make a perception check for me.
Me or for
You.
Kelpie? Okay. My perception check is. Sorry, my thing closed. Perception. 19 plus 3, 22.
You do spot Kelpie's paw just kind of slipping down to a small pouch you've got on your chest where he knows you tend to keep bits of dried fish.
Well, detective, where do you think we should go?
Will you be able to cast that spell?
I can cast it, but I need to be within a 1,000-foot radius of the item. So a lead would be good first, as casting it in a big city, it's a little redundant, and I have a limited capability of doing so.
Fair enough. And I pull out my magnifying glass, which allows me to cast Clue with the addition of being able to identify all of any creature's footprints, like race, in addition to being able to simply track their footprints and handprints in the area. And it'll give me all of the footprints highlighted from the past 10 days in a 45-foot area. So I could see what direction the cat went off in 3 days ago when it left here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You cast a spell and you see a plethora of footprints appear from. Does it narrow it down to a specific thing, or does it just show you them all in the area?
So so everyone's going to see all of the footprints in the area.
Everybody sees it.
Highlight with unique colors for each person or creature.
Okay. Cool.
Additionally, because I'm casting it through the magnifying glass, I am able to identify what creature type each of these is.
Okay, so you see a plethora of footprints. Most of them tend to be humanoid. There's a couple that are barefoot, but most of them are booted of some fashion. You see a couple of horse marks and a few tire wheel tracks, obviously from traders' carts that have gone through the area. You do indeed see plenty from smaller animals. You see some from birds. You see a handful of cats, even some dog footprints in a few places. The cat footprints that you focus on, you can quite clearly see the most prominent is Asparagus, because he's the most recent. But there's a handful of others as well that seem to have gone through the area. Narrowing it down, you are able to kind of discern one which is a little bit larger than some of the others, a bit more of a wider base of the paw print. And you believe that may well fit with that of the Cat King.
Let's follow those. And yeah, so about 45 feet worth of so at least we can determine which direction they went in.
They tend to go eastward, as far as you can figure, which kind of leads you into, if indeed the footprints continue on that way, to a slightly more wealthy and prominent quarter of the city.
So, what were the things doing that way, Gus?
I don't know. The king liked to go and visit people every now and again, but he was very careful with those that he kept company with. The Oracle being one choice, but the others were a little bit. And he kind of looks down at you and takes you in. I mean, no offense, but a little better off.
No, that tracks.
And the Oracle speaks up briefly. There's a cottage out that way. I think the rat boss has a friend there. It might be worth checking out.
I trust you implicitly.
It's called Mulberry Cottage, I think, in the Blue Lake district. A little, well, I wouldn't be allowed in there, let's put it that way, but you might be able to get in.
All right, sounds like a clue. Any objections?
Lead the way. Hoot.
And Alvin takes off. In fact, Alvin hops on Rex and takes off.
I would also like to hop on Rex.
Laura is more than welcome to join me.
Rex is used to the weight of Alvin to a certain extent, but he tends to grumble and moan about it.
Mhm.
His grumbles and protestations double the moment Law joins you as well.
He,
I'm too old for this.
he can carry me in his mouth if he wants. I'm a toy.
I give Laura a doobie snack.
Just to let you know that we have just attained our first listener. Thank you, ad nominis cheerum.
Much
So
obliged.
we have one litany that we can use collectively.
Would you be so kind as to share the litany list in Discord for us, please? For those of us that aren't regulars.
Yes, I will certainly grab that.
Thank you. In the meantime, begin to kind of set your way across, and it's a nearby bridge that leads out into this area. Rex kind of sets off at a little bit of a loping run, but very quickly breaks down into a steady trot as his aching joints kind of protest at taking the two of you along. How long does this magnifying glass clue spell last for?
It lasts up to 45 feet. And so,
Okay, right. So you just
Yeah.
kind of got the sense of the general direction. Cool.
mhm,
I presume you're making your way to the cottage then.
mhm.
All right. You make your way out of the district and into the slightly more upper class areas where the streets are maintained that little bit better. And the patrols are a little bit more prevalent. The class of people is obviously a little bit different here as well. And it's as you're working your way down one of the nearby streets that you hear a gruff voice bark out at you from one of the nearby alleys. You! Are you? Wants to talk to you.
Well, there's no reason to think that this is going to be a problem at all. And I go into the alley.
You took on you tug on one of Rex's ears, and he turns the head and begins to pull in that direction. Laura, you are welcome to do as you wish in this instance.
I wave back at the others who are following us. I'm like, wait, no, help! But otherwise, I stay on the dog because I did offer to have Rex carry me in his mouth.
He would have had you on the small of his back, I think.
Okay.
Just towards the back legs rather than carrying you if he can help it.
Okay. I'm like, help, and my head turns around a couple of times and burrs.
I love it. I'm kind of picturing that owl from Jason and the Argonauts.
And Rex growls back up at you, Alvin. This is a bad idea, I'm telling you. And
Those are the fun ones.
he comes to a sudden stop, dead in the center of the alleyway entrance. And his nose immediately goes up. The ears cock and flatten a little bit. Hang about. And as he says that, you see a large wolfish figure prowl out from a nearby small garden. And as he steps into the dim, dying daylight, you see another handful of dark, shadowy figures further down the alley. There's about 4 more similar creatures to this one, but a little bit smaller in stature. This one's got a big scar running down the side of its muzzle that looks old and ancient. And as you see this figure, Asparagus, who has been kind of following alongside you this whole way, just immediately on all fours raises his back to make himself appear as big as possible, the fur flying out. Tell them nothing! And bolts.
He wasn't telling us everything.
And
So I'm looking for the king.
Alvin!
the largest figure.
Please tell me that there's an NPC named Dave that we get to talk to later.
The largest of these figures pads towards you a step or two, but stops. Even as Rex's haunches kind of raise, and you can tell he's got that fighting poise in him there. I am Ungolf, Lord of Wargs, And my spies tell me that you're looking for the Cat King.
That's what I said.
Stay away. I don't like you meddling in the affairs of beasts. And as he says that, you hear a dull growl emanating from all of the remaining wargs in the alleyway that builds into a kind of thunder almost that rumbles in your chest a little bit.
Little snack?
You're braver than most, I'll give you that. Turn around. Go home.
I signed the contract.
I believe we are over our heads.
He absolutely did sign a contract. So here, why don't we come to a compromise? Can you at least tell us where this person is? And then after that, we can consider just going home once we have the information we came here for. He's supposed to find out where the Cat King is.
I don't know where he is. And even if I did, I wouldn't be telling big folk like you. This is our
Inside.
business.
It's true.
If it makes you feel any better, I'm actually rather small, considering.
You're big enough.
It's true. Asparagus already told us everything. So he's just covering his bases, you know? And I try to say that in a very loud whisper, but like it doesn't really work with my my voice box very well. And turn back to the warg and say, anyway, it was nice meeting you, but we need to get back on the case.
And he growls a little bit more, and you see the teeth bare just that bit further. I'm telling you one last time. Stay out of it. And he turns and begins to look back down the alleyway. And as he does, the 4 remaining wargs fall into ranks almost behind him.
I'm the dad.
That
What's trouble?
was the resistance to the treaty, I think.
And Alvin, you feel a bit of a shiver go through you. And indeed, Laura, you feel the same. Because it goes through Rex as he watches these figures disappear. And Alvin, you just hear, I didn't like that. Didn't like that at all.
Little snack.
You can't fix everything with, and well, maybe you can. He says it gets And as you turn back out of the alleyway, you see the figure of Gus reappear on a small nearby fence. I thought you handled that rather well. Don't trust him, not one bit.
Wouldn't you have made the agreement with the king in the first place with the wargs?
That was the whole idea, and yet he's here threatening you.
I mean, like, maybe.
Maybe he has people in his party that were protesting it more than ours.
Or maybe he just don't like big folks. Maybe it's surface level. I mean, sometimes, you know, like, people that are taller than me, you know, they break my stand. I mean, I can get it.
You might be right. Dogs are idiots. And you just hear that growl from Rex immediately.
I'd like to
Is
use
there a
create.
reason that every time Gus appears, we somehow end up being within a hair's breadth of mortal danger? Do you want to explain this,
I'll
Gus?
clarify that Gus has been with you pretty much this whole time, acting as an impromptu guide. For what that's worth. I am here to help you. I want the king back. Is it my fault that people want to stop that from happening?
No, but it is your fault that we don't know who those people are.
He introduced himself. It's the warlord.
But you said that they wanted the treaty.
That is what the king told us. They have agreed to it. And yet here they are.
You said it was their idea.
No.
Something that you should understand about a good mystery. It's never the first suspect. It's always the last.
I don't know.
No, that's not how it works. It's always the first one you meet. You get to the door, the butler greets you, you do the thing, you think, yes, it's the suspicious sister, or no, it is the ex-lover. No, the butler always did it.
The butler always did it. This must be one of these new stories that has come through the town as of late. I should learn more about these.
Meanwhile, Gus just kind of lays down on the fence and just puts both paws over his eyes. We're doomed.
All right. So then, Gus, if you're not, let's just assume, let's just casually decide here that you don't want us to perish in whatever this is.
Why would you even think this? I hired you to do a job.
You technically hired him. We're just here to make sure he doesn't die.
Then be gone. He is performing better than the rest of you.
I am here. Can you take us to where those wargs were going?
How am I supposed to know where they are going? They went down the alley you saw.
No, this is not an attack on you. I'm asking if you can take us to where they live so that I may use my spell to attempt to find your king.
I don't know where they walk.
Okay.
They move about every night. They sleep on the streets. They move streets.
Oh, I did not know that.
No,
I do.
they do not have. They're not as dignified as the Congress. They do not have a home.
That's helpful, because if they were keeping the king someplace, we would be able to mark their movements. They would probably check up on him often.
This makes sense.
In the meantime, maybe we should check on the rats in the direction that we were going.
Yes, the cottage. Come, it's this way. And
Okay.
he sets off a little bit further down the street again. Do you all follow?
Mhm.
Is there anything else you'd like to discuss beforehand?
Everything I discuss for like the next 10 minutes or while we're walking is going to be done with the messaging spell.
I also have the message spell, so I can help you in that.
Message to Ocean. He seems very upset about us being suspicious of things. However, almost every single instance of him running us into a room without telling us what we're going to run into has wound up with 2 my records. And hold on for a moment. we have here a crossbow, an arrow, a knife with possible poisons or other things attached to it, a room full of cats who were rather upset about things, and now a small colony of migrant wargs who seem to know about what we're looking for and would rather us not be involved. Either there is something suspicious happening about behind the scenes, or he is woefully misinformed and is going to get us killed either way if we're not exceptionally careful.
I'm going to be so torn up if Mumbleine is a spy out of character. Apologies.
I agree with you. First of all, there was the whole luring us away to the weird ambush of all the cats, not telling us where we go, Alvin trying to communicate, ignoring Alvin, and then being edgy when we were like defending ourselves. But also the hushing of the really cute kitten, highly suspicious.
Quite suspicious.
I feel like we should have taken that one to be our guide.
I feel like you need to dump water on him every chance that you get for him misbehaving.
I have been working on a new shape of my spell, and then I cast Create Water again, and it's the shape of a spray bottle.
I am not sure what this shape is, but it pleases me.
Oh, have you not ever seen one in a conservatory? I went to a really posh noble house, and they had these like rare flowers, and then basically I used to take water like mist.
Do they use these for? What do they use these for? Plants or training animals?
Well, they use them on plants, but they also had a cat, and the cat got into the pot, and then they sprayed it on the cat, and the cat did not like it. I don't know if it's the noise of the water.
Several uses for that spell.
But yes, I agree with you. It is so highly suspect. But at the end of the day, I haven't got much to sell today, and I'm just here really to keep Alvin close. But I can fly.
Feel like we'll need to keep in communication with each other at the very least. Alvin seems to be very invested in this venture, and I could not break his heart. And besides, he does have a contract.
Usually, Alvin is always invested. If it's not that, then it was the trail of ants that led to the sugar pot the other day.
And or the butterfly that he chased into the deep woods.
Yeah, that one too. And then there was the rumor of the pixie with the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, but we all know the rainbows have no end.
And there was the time that he almost wandered into the Underdark on the night of a full moon because he did not have the light to go by. And if it had not been for lore at that time, goodness knows where he would be.
Meanwhile, just like on Rex with Alvin and being like, I just love all your stories. Like the time you followed a butterfly into the woods, or the time that you followed pixies to the end of a rainbow. Did you ever find the end of the rainbow?
I fell asleep, and then Rex took me back home.
Well, hopefully these stories become more than that someday, in terms of a better business for you, and instead of a lemonade stand. Oh, I'm sorry, lemonade stand.
Can you finger quote?
It's just my wings going like this. It's my best attempt.
Like at the phrase like lemonade stand, Alvin just like tears up and just a little bit. It's an office.
Yes, I know. It just still has a. You've done a lot of work to make a slice of lemon look like a magnifying glass.
It was 3 days.
Mm-hmm. It looks good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Adventures. Did I ever tell you about the time that I got lost in the woods?
No.
Well, after I chased the butterfly and I found it, I couldn't find my way back home for 2 days.
Oh.
Yeah, and then I met a squirrel, and the squirrel, he threw a nut at me, and then after he threw his nut at me, then what else happened? Oh yeah, Rex showed up finally. He did not like that squirrel. No. But Rex, he helped me find my way back home again.
That whole adventure's where I got the first grey hairs in me muzzle.
Is that where you two met?
Yeah.
Well.
He's been with me ever since. My trusted partner.
And now I'm being led around by the nose by a Persian cat. I'm not sure what's worse, him or the squirrel.
Well, if you don't solve all of these interesting and strange mysteries between small animals in the city, who's going to?
I have thought about branding myself as a pet detective.
That might help.
Could very well.
What does a pet detective do, Alvin?
It solves cases regarding pets and animals. You're
Interesting.
protective for the pets.
Well, if we find the king, this can be your glory success to that venture.
Excellent. All right. So, Rex, are you picking up any cat smells around here other than?
Go ahead and roll a perception check for him if you don't mind, or investigation. Actually, we'll go with that.
Okay, investigation.
Please.
And will he use my investigation check or his own?
He'll use his own. I would say that you could probably help him, so you can grant him advantage on this one.
Okay, so, well, that is an 18, and then his intelligence is brought up to 10 by my class feature, so 18.
Okay. You're getting closer to the cottage by this point, and you can see that it's a simple, it's quite well kept actually. The gardens are very well maintained. A simple sort of picket fence, straw thatched roof, single story. But as you're getting closer and you ask this question, Rex's nose kind of goes a little bit to the ground, and he begins to sniff around the area a little bit. The tail begins to wag a little bit more affirmatively as he gets closer and closer to the cottage. And there's the odd occasion, Law, where he kind of just whaps you occasionally with complete accident. And as he gets closer, yeah, I mean, there's a couple, but one's really strong. It's coming from in here, and he just does the traditional pointer dog pose straight towards the cottage.
I cast locate object.
Okay. And you get a tugging and pulling sensation that kind of leads straight into one of the rear rooms of the cottage itself.
So
kind of focused on the back right of it.
You all just see Laura just extend her her little stuffy wings and bleat out a metronome, like a boop, 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 boop.
Oh, so she's gone into like the mode of a metal detector.
Yeah, a little bit. They're like a sonar on a submarine, and and then she puts down her wings, and you can just sort of hear the sound still emanating from inside of her. And she goes, "The collar is inside."
Looks like we've cracked the case.
Not
So
yet, detective. We still need to find the cat in the collar.
Is it well lit in here, or is it dark?
You're still outside right now, and it is excuse me. It is getting yeah. It is getting towards sunset, but there's still a little bit of daylight left.
Okay. So message to Lore. So you're saying that the next thing that we're looking for is inside?
Yes, I've located the collar inside using a locate object spell.
Can you show me where?
I point in the direction of it. It seems to be in the back of the cottage. I am slowly realizing how much of this character I based off of data, and it is fucking with me.
So let's see about maybe if there's an entrance from the outside that goes back there. I suppose someone will have to be sneaky. Good luck to whomever that is.
I can be sneaky if I disguise myself as a doll at the time, but that includes not moving.
So for speaking out of character, Alvin actually has expertise in stealth.
I can go invisible.
Alvin, what?
Well, y'all were speaking with message, so like Alvin.
Oh no, I only
answered
answered that. I've only answered that one question.
Okay.
just where the whole thing was. Everything else is being said out loud. So the part about, hey, do we want to kind of walk around back and see about being sneaky and stuff? Y'all can hear all of that.
Gotcha. I've got my tools. And he pulls out these thieves' tools. I like lockpicks and stuff.
The king is inside.
The color is inside. It's a distinctive difference.
I can send Kelpie in. Me and Kelpie can go invisible.
That's part of the process.
I could.
There are just a lot of things happening here. So, Alvin, why do you have lockpicking tool? I'm not going to ask. I do not want the answer to that question because knowledge is a terrible, terrible thing to have.
Ignorance is bliss.
Sometimes people don't want you to find clues.
I would say that we should back up Alvin, but Alvin seems to have brought a lot of tools to do brave and daring feats. We should let him do them.
So, I can open the door, and then Kelpie can go invisible. Teamwork.
Yeah.
The dream work.
Exactly. Let Kelpie...
Try to slip in from the back as well, if that helps.
Can you go invisible?
I'm a cat.
Then no.
I need to be.
No, you will not go first. We can have Kelpie's scout.
Question for the DM.
Yes.
The locate object spell allows me to notice if there are movement patterns associated with the object. Does it feel like it's moving?
Occasionally, yes.
In what kind of way? Like it's moving around itself? Is it a breathing motion?
There's a very, very faint motion of breathing. It occasionally raises a little bit and moves around a small area before settling back down again.
Okay. The color is being worn and it's occasionally moving.
Then the king is inside. Please, you must hurry.
Look, I'm the professional here. Just trust me to do my job.
But the sun is setting. If the king does not turn up tonight, he will be exiled.
Shh. And Alvin hops off Rex and goes to the door to pick the lock.
Into the front door?
Back door.
Okay, go ahead and make a stealth check for me.
Let me get my... so that is going to be a 25.
Okay, you feel reasonably confident. And go ahead and make a lockpicking check for me to see if you can get it.
Are we going to do Dex plus proficiency?
Yes.
Okay. That was a 13 plus 15, so 15 plus 2, 17.
Okay. You get to work on the back lock of this door. It takes very little real effort for you here. This is a very simple lock. It's a little bit better standard than the kind that you find in the area that you grew up because it's a bit more upper class, but it's still quite straightforward. And a soft click, it opens up.
So I quietly open the door and then just usher Kelpie in.
You open the door up. Go ahead.
So yeah, I would like to use my final hex of Go Unseen, which as an action made me and my familiar become invisible.
Yep.
So I'm just going to... I know where Kelpie is because I wear him. I just pick him up in his long body, even though we're both invisible, pop him on the floor, let him scamper in.
Okay. You open the door, Alvin. And Kelpie, you can't really see, but you can just feel a little bit of disturbance in the air as he kind of whips past you through the door. And as he goes through, he's followed almost instantly by Asparagus, just this streak of white straight into the room. And you hear an alarmed cry. Beware, they're here.
So I can communicate telepathically with Kelpie because he's part of the Find Familiar spell. What does he see?
What he describes to you is a small room. There is asparagus in the room, obviously, who's just bolted in.
Mm-hmm.
There is a large, heavily furred grey cat that immediately arches its back as asparagus bolts into the room and hisses, "Asparagus, you traitor!" And it seems that it's wearing the collar that has been described to you.
Mm-hmm.
And the collar is also leashed to the leg of a nearby table. And standing behind it is a human female who is reaching for her weapons as Asparagus' cry reaches you.
One moment, just one quick moment. Kelpie will take my bonus action to do a reaction and cast Fog Cloud in the room.
Okay. Can you make him have him make a perception check for me as well, please?
Sure. 15.
He communicates as well telepathically to you that he can hear feet, chittering, noise of some kind coming from inside the walls.
Cool. Fog Cloud.
Yep. And his vision is gone, as is much of everything else you can see, but it's just heavy obfuscation in this area.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there are lots of skittering. There is a woman, weapons, king, leash. Apparently, Asparagus is a traitor.
And with that, we're in initiative. Alvin, you're up.
All right. So Alvin immediately attempts to charge in. Heavily obscured. I'm pretty much blind though, right?
Pretty much. I'm going to double check what the statuses are on that one specifically, but sure. Let's go with that for now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's heavily obscured. Ah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shout, Rex, find him, boy, and hope that Rex can sniff him out for me.
Hey, sending Rex into the room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to have Rex go in the room and do all that. Technically, Rex acts on its own initiative, but obeys my commands completely. So if you want, I can add Rex to the initiative, or we could just have him operate on my turn, whichever's easier for you.
We'll have him operate on your turn if it's all the same to you, just to make life a bit
for me.
easier. And you can obviously dictate what you want to happen with him in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
But he does indeed charge past you into the room. Seems quite eager, actually, because he's now finally, it seems, let loose to chase after this cat that's been infuriating him the whole damn day.
Mm-hmm.
But as he goes in, his nose twitches, the whiskers quivering, and he's immediately sniffing at the floors and the walls. They're everywhere, kid.
Where should I start?
Everywhere, burn it. I don't know.
Is there fuel near me?
There's a couple of flower beds around the base of the cottage, but apart from that and probably this straw thatched roof, nothing much else.
Sorry, I've got enough fuel for a fire right now. Wait a minute, and I pull out my lantern and some oil, and I just smash it.
Okay. I assume you're going for the roof. I assume you're going for the roof, the straw.
Yep.
Okay. Everybody else, you kind of see Alvin as having pushed the door open, these streaks of white and brown and invisibility going into the room. Alvin lights this lantern, gives it a few experimental swings, and then up onto the roof, where it shatters, and a good chunk of the top section just immediately bursts into flames, and a few smaller embers begin to pocket around the whole of the roof. Anything else from you?
Did I do good, Rex?
That remains to be seen.
Find the king for me and we'll get out of here.
If that's your turn, then Laura, it's up to you.
Me?
Well,
It's Law.
I was
Okay.
going to go in, but the roof is on fire. So I'm going to do something else from outside. I'm going to try to hook it around the back of the building because I know that it's in one of the back rooms that I'm sensing this from, and try to give Rex some better directions from the outside by shouting loudly.
Okay. You can't see Rex is the only thing.
That's okay. I mean, if I shout from outside a house, you can more or less tell the direction that I'm shouting from by moving
That's
toward
fine.
the voice.
I presume you're giving directions to get to the collar, in essence.
Yes, essentially. I'm trying to figure out the closest point from around the outside.
Okay, I'm going to say that's a free action because you can talk a little bit on your turn anyway. So
Yeah. So past turn for me in terms of mechanics, because everything I have relies on sight, but also there's like fog cloud, fire inside. I'm gonna stay outside the building for right now, and move around to the back, and that'll be my turn to try to. In essence, I'm giving an assist to Rex.
that's fine.
And that's my turn.
As your turn ends, you hear an ear-piercing, all of you hear an ear-piercing screech come from inside this room, and it sounds a little bit feminine. You can assume, Ocean, that this has come from this woman. And as this happens, there's that chittering begins to grow for Kelpie and those inside the room. And then swarms of rats begin to pour from all manner of orifices. They pop out of holes, cupboards. They begin to creep out of every single area and not only go into the room, but also out of the building itself. Alvin, you have dozens of them surrounding your feet within seconds. And one or two of them begin to work their way up your leg and begin to nibble and bite at bits of you that they can.
I have a plan.
You take 4 points of damage from these two. Another couple congeal into swarms of their own and begin to break their way off to the nearest of you. So I'm going to say that is Law at present. Ocean, are you invisible along with Kelpie right now?
Mm-hmm.
Then not you, so it's going to go to Lomric as well. So all three of you have just these swarms of rats beginning to congeal in your general area. You see one or two of them are even on fire as they burst out from the thatch roof itself and fall down to the floor. And inside you hear a voice, "Leave him, let him burn." And there's a shattering of a window from the other side of the building.
Do I see that?
Who
shattering?
did that voice sound like?
Nobody that you've met.
Okay.
Do I see the shattering?
Yes.
What does it look like?
Glass has exploded outwards from a window, and it looks as though somebody's elbow has burst into it.
Curious.
And as you watch, a hand comes up, and they begin to pull themselves out of the window. That is going to push us over to Lomric.
How far am I from this entrance where everything is happening?
I would say that you could have positioned yourself wherever you pleased prior to this going down.
Okay. So, assuming that's the case, what I would do is kind of get a bead on where his position is before the fog cloud goes off and make a straight line to the last place that I saw him.
Are we referring to the king here, or?
Yes, specifically because he's chained to a table, if I'm not mistaken.
He was. Go ahead and make... I'm trying to think what the best one's going to be for this. Go ahead and make a survival check for me, if you don't mind.
Ooh. Ooh, 19.
Okay. You're able to charge into the room. Now, the fog doesn't get your breath, but the smoke is quickly beginning to in the upper area. So you're short enough that it's not too big of a hindrance. It's obviously congealing more around the upper areas. You see Rex has already kind of got his nose going towards the far end of the room, roughly where you saw this figure, and you bump into the table easily enough and feel your way down the one leg, and he's not at that particular one. But the table isn't overly large, so you work your way to the next few, and eventually you manage to get a hand onto a large, heavily furred cat who immediately goes to bite you.
Is there, because I can't use 2 spells here to communicate, I guess. Oh wait, I can just talk to him. What am I doing? I'm a friend. I'm here to help. Let me get you out. And don't bite me.
Release me, you bounder, you cad! I'm the king!
I am a dwarf. Now, hush and let me help you. And then is there a locking mechanism on this chain over here?
There isn't. It's just purely been looped around the table leg, and the table is of enough weight that it's just really kind of held in there. It's a solid kind of oaken thing. It's pretty heavy.
Oh, okay. So there's not like a thing with a key or anything like that to open or close.
Nope.
Okay. What kind of check would I need to make to get him out of here?
You'd have to lift the table. Simple athletics check, if you don't mind.
Athletics. Oh, great. So that would be a really high roll here of 5.
Okay, you strain at the table, but you've got in such a locked position that you can't actually get quite enough leverage to really push it. It rocks a little bit, and you're fortunate that it's just enough for the cat to kind of pull at the same time. It's just enough to raise the leg for him to slip the chain out from underneath. Do you still
Okay, is
retain
he
a
free to
hold on him?
Huh?
Do you still retain a hold on him?
Okay. I think, well, hold on. How far in was he to get to?
Probably about 7 feet, maybe 10 at a push.
7? So 7 feet to come in?
Yeah, it's not a big room.
Okay. Can I use the remainder of my movement? I have like 25 to take him out of here.
Yeah, if you're holding on to him.
Okay, I would like to.
Okay. And you begin to try and work your way out of the room. As you do, the door at the other side of the room suddenly bursts open. 4 large warg figures appear in the area, one of which you immediately recognize as the Warlord. And it's difficult to kind of make much out because of the fog obscuring the air. You can just kind of see these dark shapes. Rex immediately recognizes them from the smell. But Lomric, as you're kind of passing the door and it bursts open with these figures, you just about manage to get a glimpse of a small Siamese cat tumbling into the room on these short legs, darting in between the legs of the warlords and trying to strike this heroic pose, but it kind of skids, overextends itself, and just flops straight onto its nose and then tumbles over back onto its legs again. And you recognize the small figure of Bombolina.
Bombolina!
And immediately the warlord...
You hate to see it.
The warlord...
Called it while you stepped away.
Kai did.
Begin to try and surround you. Let him go. Do you make any effort to release the king?
Well, if I am to make a guess here, these people are why he ended up chained to the table in the first place. And someone was very willing to let the building burn down and have him die in here. So, come again? That is my response.
Put the king down. Please let him go. And you hear Bombolina.
So
help.
Here, why would I do that?
So he can get out. The place is on fire.
Good. We were both just leaving.
And we're going to pause you briefly there because we're going to move to Ocean while all this is going off.
Okay, so I was invisible. I like to move, please. Away. I would like a direct 60-foot line of sight of rats, door, burning building. And I yell out, "Brace yourselves!" As I, please, would like to cast Gust of Wind. And I need all rats, all people in my line of sight for 60 foot to roll me a strength saving throw, and I need a roll from you, the DM, a percentage chance of the fire going out.
Mm-hmm. So
So
just
does that mean I'm rolling a saving throw here?
I would say, for clarification, if you're aiming for the exterior of the building, it's going to exclude Lomric, it's going to exclude the king. The figure that was breaking out the window hasn't fully got out, so they'll be excluded, and the wargs. But it's going to include Law, it's going to include vast majority of the rats, and it's going to include Alvin and obviously the fire.
And I would say, because I said brace yourselves, I would say that would also probably give Law and Alvin advantage.
That's perfectly fine.
But you won't let me blow. You won't.
Warnings.
So the wind is just continuous. By the way, I can change it with my.
Okay.
I can change the directions of it, so it's not going into the house at all, even though I've lined up the door.
If you want to line up for the door, you'll get it into a small portion of the room, yes.
Cool. Yeah, that's good enough.
Yeah, you'll probably get a few people, but you'll make it more difficult for somebody to exit that room, I would assume.
Yeah. I'm trying to solve multiple problems.
Mm-hmm.
I can't save everyone, sadly.
Yeah, if you're lined up with the door, I thought I was on the other side of the building. I feel like I should be okay, but I will roll.
No, if you're aiming for the other side of the building, that's fine, because I know you were.
Oh yeah, because you saw the person
I went
come out.
around.
Yep. That's fine then. So we'll exclude you from that.
It's okay. I'll just get rained on by by flaming pieces of hay. This is fine. I chose a better option when I.
So what saving throw do we need to make here? We've got strength, but what's the DC?
14, and I have a 50% chance of putting out the fire.
Alvin, what did you get?
Natural 1.
With advantage?
Yeah.
Oh,
Alvin.
you get pushed 15 foot.
Yeah. So Alvin, you were pretty close to the door, and I don't think you'd moved. So I'm going to say you're going to get the chance to either be at the side of the door and not in the room, or pushed into the room.
I'm 100% okay with being pushed right into the middle of this room.
Okay. You are pushed into the room, and you kind of bounce up against Rex, and both of you kind of end up in a tangle as you're shunted against the far wall. One of the wargs has kind of been positioned in a similar place that he catches the tail end of it, and it knocks him flying as well. The fire itself is blown apart, quite literally. Straw as well flies off the roof. The fire, for the most part, is extinguished, and the gust is just strong enough to kind of carry it up and away. But one or two strands of it do get perilously close to the nearby cottages and fall down in amongst the flower beds and that sort of thing. Not, fortunately, not catching anybody's roof just yet.
Yes, one more thing to note. Anyone who is in my gust of wind has their movement halved.
Okay.
Does the fog cloud get blown away?
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I am no longer, me and Kelpie are no longer invisible.
Actually, I think the fog dissipates anyway because this is a concentration spell, isn't it? So you can only have one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole of the fog is gone at this point.
Yes.
Okay. That takes us back up to Alvin.
Alrighty. So Alvin's gonna, get up slowly as he's pushing against the wind. So, I found the king. Case solved. And Do the wargs say anything?
One turns to glare at you, where the warlord seems to have his attention entirely focused on the king and indeed Lomric. Whatever they signed you up for, he needs to get out of here.
Yeah, I'm here to save the king.
Then let him go.
How
And he barks this more at Lomric than he does at you.
Look, you know, sometimes when you're hungry, you're just not yourself. Have a derby snack.
Even Rex kind of turns his head to look at you like, really, kid? Meanwhile, just kind of positioning himself to a little bit more of a defensive stance in front of you, just to kind of between you and this wargish figure.
So,
persuasion.
Sure, go ahead.
Natural 20.
You kind of, it's not so much that you were able to kind of persuade this figure as much as you can tell it's a kind of instinctual reaction almost, because you just toss the snack into the air, and like any dog that's been kind of half trained, it just immediately leaps for it, snatches it out of the air, looks back, and just gets the full-on daggers from the warlord himself. And you see the ears kind of come down, the tail lowers, and he just cowers a little bit in the presence of it. Now is not the time.
Yeah, so let's get out of here together.
And the warlord turns, looks at his own, jerks his head towards the door, and the three remaining wargs pick themselves up and begin to try and push against the wind and get out of the room. The warlord himself seems very reluctant to do so, whilst keeping this eye on Lomric and the king. Anything else?
I have no intention of harming him, but my friends and I are under the distinct impression that he needs to be rescued, and it certainly does not help to find him in a building attached to a table and in chains while yelling traitor at the person who was supposed to, and I quote, guide us here. If you know something that you would be willing to share about why this is the case, I would be more than happy to hear.
I told them. And you hear this voice from this small little munchkin cat that's kind of cowered underneath the feet of the warlord. Told them you couldn't trust asparagus, but they wouldn't listen. Said I was too young.
So, we need to like hurry back, right? Because the king's gonna lose his kingship if we don't get him back soon.
Yes, that is true. I'm going to lose my kingship if I don't get back to the council by nightfall, and that asparagus has had me chained up here for the last 3 days, and will you let go of my fur?
Okay, so I am going to attempt to do a thing, assuming that his movement is at least somewhat restricted because I'm holding on to a chain, right?
If you choose to, yes.
I am going to give him very gentle scratches just behind his ears.
Okay. You feel a lot of tension there, and some of it begins to ebb a little bit as you begin to massage it. Where are your senses of priority? The house is on fire.
No, probably not, or at least less so. There's a bit of a breeze outside right now.
And the Rat King is in the next room.
Ah, yes. I look at the War King and say, you're welcome to come with us if you like. But we are taking this one back to his people. That is what we were sent here to do.
Why do you think I am here? I'm here to honor the treaty. You are fortunate that this one, and he points his nose down towards Bombolina, has followed you most of the day and could lead us here.
Fair enough. Can I undo these chains at this point?
If you wish to, yep.
Okay, I would like to undo them.
Okay. It's not too hard to unclip them from the collar. While all that's going on, Law, you see this figure that's got the hand on the window ledge pull themselves completely out and into the garden.
Is it that lady who is
yes.
inside? Does she look like she's trying to get away?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to I'd like to cast Sacred Flame on her. So she needs to make a dex saving throw.
Sure thing. Let's go ahead and say that didn't work.
Great. It looks like a marble. and I throw it at her. Hits her square in the middle of the head and does 5 points of radiant damage. And then the marble flips backward and I cast Spiritual Weapon.
Okay.
Which takes the form of a Rube Goldberg device. So the marble flips back off of her head, hits a series of dominoes that are suspended in the air, goes around, comes around to this like pivoting thing, and then knocks her again in the back of the head. That's gonna be a 15 to hit.
I'll do it.
Nice. And that one's going to be 8 points of damage. Of course.
Okay. The first shot that kind of hits throws them a little bit off balance, and they stagger the step or two forward towards the picket fence they're running to, and then all of a sudden their gaze focuses on this marble as it begins to run through this Goldberg machine. They seem to almost stop in their tracks, just watching the immunity that's going on here, and then suddenly, bang! The second marble hits, and this one you hear a small crack. Even from this distance, and the hand immediately just goes up. The figure staggers the extra few feet towards the picket fence before managing to get one hand over it and begins to kind of hold themselves over it as best they can. But you can tell you've really knocked them for a loop here. They're struggling a little bit to even walk in a straight line anymore.
Maintaining concentration, so the Rube Goldberg device is still going.
Splendid. And as they get over to the other side of the fence, you see the figure hunch a little bit and then shrinks down. It's not quite the size of a rat. It's a very large rat. But nevertheless, about half the size it presently was. And it begins to skitter as far as it can in the opposite direction. It's not... I'm going to say that's going to take its turn, so you are welcome to use another one if you wish.
Nope. Just rotate turns back inside.
Okay.
Or to Ocean.
And as you enter into the room, if you so wish, you meet Alvin and the remainder of the groups exiting the room as a whole, almost. And Lomric appears to be undoing chains from around the collar of this very fine, you would assume under normal circumstances, looking cat that immediately just begins to kind of lick at parts of its fur that have been singed a little bit and ruffled up by the mistreatment. Well, that took long enough. Well done, Bombolina. Very nice job indeed. And to you, he says, and looks at the warlord, who just kind of gruffly growls at him. I'm rather glad that the treaty has proven to be worthwhile. And, of course, the rest of you, despite your rough man handling, says and looks up at Lomric, I appreciate that you got me out of a rather sticky situation.
What can I say except you're welcome?
Well, how exactly did you all get here?
Does that really matter? And does that really matter? I mean, it is sunset.
This is true, but I'm sure that asparagus must have dangled something in front of your noses.
Your Majesty, do you need a double time lift to your throne?
I'm not being carried by that, if that's what you're asking. And looks again at Lumrick.
No, I was thinking I would carry you with your permission and I can fly you there.
This would save time. Very well, but only because you smell strangely familiar and comforting.
That would be this, and I pull out a dried anchovy.
Oh, it's been days.
Well, come aboard Airways Ocean, and we have onboard snacks, and we can get you back to your people within time and reveal Asparagus' treachery.
Splendid. And he hops onto you, and as he does so, the invisible Kelpie just kind of shifts back into view around your arms, shoulders even, but slides across. So he's got one shoulder, and the Cat King's kind of latched onto the other a little bit more precariously, and you can actually feel the claws digging into the shoulder a little bit, just to kind of maintain a grip.
Oh, I should also mention one more thing. And there's like a brief pause before watery wings sprout from my back.
There is a hiss of alarm.
You may get a little wet, but I will dry you off afterwards, Your Majesty.
Very well. It's not the worst inconvenience I've had these last few days. Bombolina, I'm sure you must be aware of what Asparagus promised these people. See to it that they get what they deserve. There's a good girl. Away with you then, come.
And I feed him a dried anchovy. And basically, the way it works is it's basically like water jets. So I'm technically like Iron Manning over houses with like leaps.
Sure.
It's not actual flight.
And as you begin to make your way and depart, Bombolina and the Warglord kind of share a bit of a nod, and the Warglord and his wargs begin to depart in their own fashion. He even offers a bit of a sensitive growl to Rex before they make their way out, before Bombolina is left alone with the remainder of you. Well, no, better than I thought it would, kid. Nice job.
I'm totally a professional detective now.
Yeah, of course you do realise we've got another part of the case to solve.
Yeah, we gotta find the Rat King, and we gotta get Asparagus, and we gotta figure out who the lady was, and I feel like I'm losing track of something else.
Yeah. I mean, if we do it smart, though, I think we could probably get another contract out of them. Sure, they'd pay good money to have Asparagus found.
You're the best partner ever.
Doobie Snack.
He snatches it straight out of the air. Anything else from the rest of you as the sun begins to set on Neverwinter?
No. Gonna probably head back to the temple after saying bye to my friends. And wonder if I'm ever going to get assigned to look after people who aren't Alvin.
Hey, Lore, after a bit of it, after all of this, I feel like a trip to a tavern is in order. I'm pretty sure they have things that even you could enjoy.
Yes, I mostly enjoy learning about things and stories, which teach me how to lie about the truth sometimes to better enjoy life.
Well, you wouldn't believe the story I have to tell you about the day that a group of people, unlikely as they were, ended up rescuing the king of felines.
That story sounds familiar, but I've never heard it before. I would love to hear it.
Well, why don't we all go together to the tavern and maybe have a sip while I write a draft? I will certainly need it. Ocean, Alvin, would you care to join?
Absolutely. Y'all are my best friends in the whole wide world.
I will take a rain check. Quite literally, it's going to rain, and I'm starting to dry out. I need to go for a swim.
That is fair. I suppose we will have to come and visit you and the salt shop at another time.
If you could find me some juniper berries, that'd be great. I found someone that has itchy armpits.
Well, the next time my reading takes me to the woods, I would be glad to do so.
I did pick up something for you, however, and I'm gonna rummage in my pack and pull out a sensor. Here for your collection.
Oh, it's so pretty. Although nothing can compare that brief time when you lived on my underwater shelf.
You had a lot of beautiful things.
Yes, I do. Thank you so much. Ooh, it smells nice.
Mm-hmm. I took it.
Ah, neat. I usually take things from the sea as well. Well, I bid you all good night. And I will see you soon.
And those of you that decide to go to a tavern find that the nearest one is actually a very famous tavern built around the ruins of an old pirate ship called the Beached Leviathan. And the sun is beginning to set as you arrive, and you get the feeling you see a small figure actually being hauled away from the tavern in irons for some strange reason. But you let the image pass, settle down for a rest of the evening that is well worth the reward. And with that, we are going to call an end to our session as well. Hope you all enjoyed it, especially you, Justin, obviously.
Yes.
Man of the hour with these viewer one-shots.
It was a blast.
Good stuff. We will be back here with Goldhart in the near future. We've got plenty of shows on at present, so do feel free to keep an eye on those going forward as well. You can see the schedule down there below. You can follow us on Twitter at GoldheartG, just to kind of see what we're doing on there and keep track of all the crazy bedlamic stuff that we get up to in our various different games as well. We'll just do a quick round robin, see what everybody's highlights of the evening were. In no particular order, we're going to go with Lomric.
Lomric?
Sorry, what'd I do?
Do you have a favorite moment? What are you
Listen,
doing
okay,
that's just so distracted?
I have not had a proper amount of anything in the last 3
You're
days.
allowed to be out of it for a game. It's fine.
But so as far as places to find me, most of the time I am on Twitch at Sinziek, which is just about as easy to spell as it sounds, and also on the Twitters with Sinziek Beta.
Any particular highlights from the evening?
Highlights from this evening, as far as my favorite moments go, have been mostly following Alvin and side-eyeing Gus the whole time. Like, Gus, really? Wait, like, why? Why are you doing this? Oh, I don't know. We didn't do anything. Also, giving theatrical performances while trying to tempt Kat to tell us anything was fantastic.
I must admit, I'll chip in with mine. That whole sequence, that whole scene was absolutely brilliantly done. Well done. Fantastic stuff. Definitely a highlight for me. Kai, where can we find you? What are you up to? And what was your highlight?
Well, I'm just mostly here on Goldhart. And you can find me on Twitter at PoisonKivy. It's at sign POISONKIVEE. I can spell it, I swear. I'll learn it better. I just changed my name, so it's an adventure. Highlight for today. I just like the whole pet detective thing, I think. It's
Yeah.
such a weird aesthetic. I love it. As far as like a good singular moment, I loved the messaged conversation between Ocean and Lamric. That was so good.
Okay. Justin.
All right, so I'm Justin with Mage Hand Press. You can find me on Twitter at Mage Hand Press. We sell 5e products. Favorite thing of tonight, I am torn between the theatrical performance by Lomric and also the Snickers commercial.
Great stuff. For those of you curious, Mage Hand Press is the reason we got a Dark Matter campaign, so they are definitely worth checking out because we had a great blast with that one. And it's great to be able to DM for you, mate. It's been a long time. Finally, Ocean.
Hello, everybody. It is I, Gloss and Gadgets, also known as
Yay!
Leonie, the great golden stag. Look, I've got antlers. Of Goldhart Group. My favorite moment. Okay, so I'm gonna choose a specific one. It was the very unsubtle the roof is on fire moment from Lore, but also I kind of really like how everyone just made a mess of a character. We just totally bought into this wacky, whimsical adventure in Neverwinter. And if you've been to that city, it's a shithole like Baldur's Gate.
It's a real place we've never actually visited.
So, if you've ever been there, yeah, TripAdvisor says it's a shithole. And of course you can catch me here. I am actually on Tales of the Grim on Sunday, where I am playing. Who am I playing? Oh yes, Victoria Shaw in the Capers Adventure over on Tales of the Grim, where I'm basically the bad cop in our buddy cop movie, and everyone else is the good cop. But someone had to be the serious one. And then, of course, you can catch me Monday for the penultimate episode of season 1, Descent into Avernus. Most of the party are captured. One party member escaped. It's gonna be intense. And then, of course, you can catch me back for Date with Death the week after. And just to remind you that Waterdeep Dragon Heist is on a short hiatus while we recover and work out some things behind the scenes as we get ready for the next lap of our adventure. I really can't wait to get all this makeup off. My face is so itchy. I don't know if you can tell, but I have... Oh, wait a minute. Let me turn the antlers off first. I have so much glitter on my face. There is so much glitter on my desk and down me. It's literally everywhere. But I got to try out my wings, so I'm pretty pleased with that.
Can I add to what you were mentioning about with just being on this random adventure, how we were just had the least decorum. Here's the King of Cats, you should release me at once. And I'm just shh.
Yeah, shh.
Calm down, it's okay.
Oh, there we go.
Well, I think that's it for us all. So thank you all very much for hanging out with us tonight. I know I saw a few subscriptions and gifts being thrown about. You're also very generous. It was great stuff. Thank you all very much for that. I hope those of you that subscribe feel free to check out our other shows because there's some awesome stuff out there as well. We have Patreons up there with all sorts of cool material starting to appear on there with some of the things. There's some old stuff that you can look at as well. Some exclusive artwork, all sorts of different stuff. So yeah, we're quite busy. We're quite active. It's great. But for now, from us, hope you had fun. We'll see you again sometime in the future. And in the meantime, stay in trouble and on fire.